For everybody, that could be a different path. I don't know if the path could be flexible. I don't know how malleable the path could be. I can't potentially make any way into that. What I know is that it does exist to some extent, if not just the fact that it's transcendental and very philosophical, but it still exists. It's not something that is unfounded to the way that we live. We're seeing it everywhere. I mean, if you look at the world, we're always seeing that somehow somebody's benefiting from our well-being or our welfare. And there's always scale. If somebody's tipping the scale, they're getting the advantage and you don't. That's kind of survival by proxy. I mean, if the ability to survive means that you kind of rob others of their ability to survive themselves. And that's on a global scale being done to us. So I don't think it's far-fetched to think that we aren't living in a prison of some sort, if not just metaphysically living in a prison spiritually. But you can definitely skew more randomness, and you would realize that the prison camp is very far-fetched. It's not something that's just a physical entity. It's something that is it's innumerable essentially. And if you do have this realization, it's very easy then to say, well, how do you escape the prison camp? And that's kind of my answer. Is I don't think there is a concrete answer or a bare bones basic blueprint to follow to get around with this prison. I don't think it's as easy as saying, there's this blueprint that you can follow, this a cookbook version that you can essentially follow, and you can follow this 12 commandments to get out of the black iron prison. It's very difficult in a way, and it requires customization to be able to get through. So my realization was more that there is such a prison, if not that it's just spiritual, albeit the fact that there may be many such prisons, although we don't know the number of prisons that can actually exist. It might be infinite, but it might exist in any way, shape, or form to the way that we're living. It may be endless. It might be monetizable. It might not be monetizable. It might be discrete. It might be continuous. We don't really know the extent or the bounds of the specific planar, but all we know is that there is something called the black iron prison. And I think the concept of the black iron prison is really one way of what some philosopher once said is, if you ask a question, you're already halfway there. It's not as if you just have to have all the answers, but sometimes everything starts with a question anyways. If you ask the question, you're already halfway to the solution because you know what to ask. And part of the solution is asking the right questions. And I have a lot of questions around the black iron prison. I'm not really sure what it is, but I think one way through the crystallines essentially is consciousness. I mean, I've noticed if I'm sitting in a park, right, how many people are just strolling by? How many of these entities or these blind nymphs essentially are just strolling by, offering no value, not really heeding any type of lucid, refractory thought or recursive thinking, but just strolling by, not having the metacognition to really see where they really are in the world, what they're really being construed to, what they're really placatable to. They're just living. And I've been thinking about this so many years that if you're conscious, you kind of break away from the mold. The moment you become conscious and you say, I'm here and I can see myself through the metacognition of my own thinking, you break through, you become it's almost like you shed. It's almost like shedding your skin. You become through the chrysalis of becoming the metamorphosis of the butterfly in the centipede. The centipede to the butterfly at least. But it's like you become something. And once you become conscious of yourself, it's like the big I. You kind of hack into a higher sense of intelligence. If you are limited, like everybody is, you can, just by being conscious, you can access higher dimensional thinking. What's crazy is you do an IQ test, and the IQ test might say you have a specific IQ. But through conscious thinking, you can hack into systems just by being conscious. It's like an intelligence itself. It's as if there's an unboundedness to consciousness itself that is completely endless to the prosperity it might bring to you. Like if you're conscious and somebody with the brightest mind is just living in an automational world, you can hack into his world or its world or that entity's world just by being conscious or by being more conscious than they are at that specific moment. And just the thought of it is really, it's extremely just enlightening, and it's completely, it's tranquil. It's truly just it's profound. And I think the thought of how conscious thinking can merge, a bridge to better opportunities and more, um, at least more nodes of being, nodes of living, nodes of potential, is extraordinary if you think about it. That you look at somebody with an IQ of 100, and that person could be made conscious by thinking about themselves, and they're more aware of their environments. And through mindful environmental awareness, that person can notice things that other people wouldn't be noticing by living in an automatic world. Whereas those entities, or the latter entities, might be more intelligent on the book, but because they're not conscious, they won't be able to save themselves from the decline of their own physical propensity. It's crazy to think about it, but it's the same with an animal. If you could get an animal, even if the animal have severe handicaps, get that animal to be more conscious, and then the chance that that animal would be caught or would be at prey's end would be far lesser to the chance that where they'd be just be automatic. Like, consciousness truly is a superpower. Being conscious, being mindful, is truly a superpower. Maybe that's one of the keys to get away from the black iron prison, is consciousness itself. And that's kind of the Buddhist thought, is if we're conscious, we started being in the enlightened phase, we meditate, we can become more conscious through our concentration, and all the other areas that they're actually practicing, maybe then can we escape the black iron prison. That's kind of what the Buddhists thought in the beginning. Now, what's interesting here is they are a 3,000-year-old generative spirituality that's starting, that morphs. It's a morphology, essentially. It will never stop. We have offshoots of Buddhism, but the core tenet of Buddhist thinking is mindfulness and concentrative and contemplative practices, which seems to be the core tenet of spirituality in general, is the idea of noticing yourself in the universe. So perhaps spirituality, by its precise, is in itself the idea of getting away from black iron prison, if only for the fact that it gives you the ability to be more aware of yourself. Maybe it's not about God, but maybe it is about consciousness, conscious living, conscious breathing, onwards, or uncentripedal consciousness, or omnifarious consciousness, essentially. Multifarious and multifaceted consciousness would be the solution, potentially, to get away or break away from the black iron prison. The ability to form different reference views within a reference view, like recursive thinking about a concept, but thinking about so many ways the concept could be or be not. Tangential and adjacent thinking patterns would help you as well to break away from the theory of the black iron prison as well. This definitely is a stopping power to the black iron prison in so many ways. So it's interesting, however, how consciousness itself, once it's developed, can really save you. It's known. I mean, if you're more conscious about your environment, you can save yourself from disaster, or definitely bad luck or bad fate or bad omen-ish, just by being conscious itself. So maybe consciousness is more than just, maybe it really is the way to break away from the black iron prison altogether. Maybe the trick is to be more conscious, in lieu of the fact that you might have a limit to that. But the more conscious you are, it might be additive rather than aggregatable. So it might be so that consciousness is additive, so the more conscious you are, better for you in the end. And there is a most conscious part of it as well, where maybe it can be improved. So maybe that is the key to the black iron prison breakage away, is by being conscious and not just living automatically. So I've been thinking about it for many years, and I think training consciousness essentially is the key to escaping any type of turmoil in your life, however tumultuous it might be. Conscious training, essentially, it is. And that is what we call lightly mindfulness training. But there's more to it. And that's kind of the magic of it, I think, is that's the only magic, is the idea of visualization, conscious living, being conscious, but using consciousness as a form of magic. That means you will away and you form will, or egregores, as they say. That goes back into chaos magic, and with egregores, you create entities in your mind, and you assign them tasks consciously and willing the universe something that you want, like willing and physically visualizing it and getting tapped into specific energy. Like maybe that's the form of transcendental consciousness that we try and get to by escaping purgatory in our own lives. If you think about it, maybe that is what we're really after in the end. Maybe it's really not about being more sophisticated with lateralized thinking, but maybe it's just about, flirting with consciousness itself. Maybe that's the trick. I don't know. What do you think?